Welcome back everyone. In this tutorial we will go through how to create a procedural map. So instead of just a building, now the entire map will be generated with meshes. And we do this from a map that's generated with brushes. So you just brush out your map with additive and subtractive brushes, and after that you can convert it to a procedural level, which is a little script I created. It's basically just a procedural building script with some other default properties, so it works better for your map. And that's what we will do. So here I have some random brick sizes with random vegetation, and yeah, it's all pretty random, so you might want it less random, but I will go through how I did this. And first off, we will try to put this procedural level script into your own Unreal editor. If you go to your UDK folder, your UDK, and then is here the UDK, my UDK folder. Then we go into development, source, and into engine, classes. And what I did was, let's see, the procedural level script. It's called proc level, and make sure your class name is the same as your file name. It extends procedural building, proc building, and I just changed some default properties. I don't want it to split walls at roof levels and don't want it to split at wall edges. I wanted to generate a floor mesh which is by default off, and this is something that's not necessary, but it debugs the scopes. So if you click on a on your procedural level volume at the end, it will show how the scope looks. So it will draw some lines on it, but you will see that later on. This is the script. If you throw that in here in the development, source, engine, classes, when you run UDK, it will say your script files are out of date, and it will compile. Then it will close again, then you will have to reopen it, and then it will actually launch UDK. Then you can check if it's there by right clicking on your volumes, and then you will see a procedural level volume here, proc level, right under proc building. And that's all you need to know about the setup for it. And let's start to take a look at this. How this rule set looks. We have a I made a base rule set here, which looks really simple. It is really simple. What I did is I made a couple of sub rule sets for the bricks, for the foliage, and for the trims. We have here we have a little trim, and we have the foliage and the bricks. So that looks pretty clear here. I transformed this trim apparently here, and this random function that's just there to make sure 1 out of 6 times a scope won't have any foliage on it. And this clear outside is this size node with a clear outside above it is really important. What this does is it makes sure that the outside of when I click this here, you can see that when I look into game mode, that there is we have these the rooms here, and we can see that there's a bigger volume around it. And this is because I created in the beginning a really big additive brush, and I subtracted smaller brushes out of that. It's important to understand how brushes work before continuing with this tutorial, because there are a lot of tutorials on how to use brushes. So if you don't understand how that works, you probably won't understand any of this. But yeah, you will have to look it up. But I had this big additive brush, and I subtracted all these rooms out of it, and then converted it to a procedural level. And this outside is just to make sure that that cube was 10,240 units. That's really big. If it's less than that, it will apply rules. If it's greater or equal, then it won't apply any rules. This means that my outside brush won't have any models applied on it, and that's exactly what we want. And it's just a little optimization. Then I have all these other rule sets for the brick wall, for example. That's this rule set. You can see I placed multiple bricks inside one mesh rule. This is just with different offsets, and to make all the stones have different offsets. So you can see that these have all their own offset. There are actually only 6 different stones, so it's enough to fake the illusion that every stone is different. And there's one empty here, one gray, and that means that 1 out of 7 times there won't be any stone. So like here, for example, there will just be a wall. Behind all these stones there's a bigger wall, that's this mesh here, and 1 out of 6 it won't draw a mesh here, so it will automatically, you will see this wall that's behind it. And that works pretty well. Then the foliage, that works a lot very different, because it took me some time to figure out how to have multiple layers on a wall, because now we can have different models in the X and Y, X and Z direction. But if we want multiple models on top of each other in the Y direction, there is a way of doing it. So like this this foliage here, we have bricks behind it and foliage on top of it, and that's done by making a random rule like this one. I have 2 outputs, and I force the minimum amount of executed and the maximum amount of executed also both on 2. So this means it will always use input 0 and input 1. So you will have the bricks, that's this part here, and the foliage. So maybe you want wooden beams in front of the wall, or any kind of support, but you have to still look behind it for some reason, like here. Then this is a really easy trick to do it. And that's really the basics for creating the walls. Later on we will also go into how to create the stairs. You can see here that it's a different rule set. This is also a different, when I click on it, you can see it's not connected to my other rule set. This is because I want to use as much square or rectangular shaped scopes. So this, if we look in unlit mode, you can see that the bricks actually go on behind the stairs. And if I would add these two together, then that would mean this is a triangle, and then it wouldn't render any meshes at all, because scopes only work when it's a rectangular shape. So that's why these two are both in a separate rule set. But that's something for later on. First we will try to make something like this. So let's see, I made for the foliage, this is the rule set for the foliage. It's just some alternate rules, and randomly it applies a mesh or not. And at the beginning I made a random. This is all the same, but he chooses one of these in the beginning, and the only difference is that this part means there will be 50% foliage on the wall. This part means there will be 1/3 of the wall will be covered with foliage, and this is 1/4. It's just to make it look a little more random. So sometimes you have a little foliage on the wall like there, sometimes you have a lot, sometimes you have nothing. So it makes it look more real. Then that's an old rule set. Let's see, this is the trim that's actually on the corner. I didn't use a corner rule for this. As you can see, I used a split rule to accomplish this. That's because the corner rule sometimes messes up and it doesn't know if you're when you have a corner rule, let's go in. You have your main, and then you have a +90 and a -90. A -90 corner is a corner like this here, and a +90 corner is a corner like this here. And sometimes with a corner rule, and a complex volume like this, with a regular building it works, but with complex volume like this, it sometimes doesn't know if it's a +90 or -90 volume. So if you do this, just know that it sometimes can screw it up. So I didn't use it, and that's all there is in this volume. And the funny thing is that the amount of meshes I used isn't that much. I only have this foliage mesh right here that I took out of UDK, and I made it a separate mesh file because it didn't have a second UV applied to it. So I exported it to Maya, created a second UV, and then re-imported it again. Then I have this really simple brick. Everyone can make this, right? So that's the brick. Then I have this plane that's behind the wall. If there's no stone, then there's a plane. Then I have a trim piece and another. These look really boring. It was just for testing, but yeah. And this is one of those corner pieces. So that's just a couple of models, and I generated everything with it. So that's to show you how simple it is to make an expensive looking environment like this.